Alright, so here we are. We have the inner workings here of a T56 transmission, at least first gear through fourth gear. So this here is the front of the transmission. This is the input shaft. Here's the counter shaft, and then from here, that silver part there back is what's called the main shaft, or the output shaft. This is where the drive shaft attaches onto in the car. This main shaft just comes off of that, that input shaft just comes off of the main shaft there, and they're separated by a little bearing there. And so in the transmission, the input shaft and the counter shaft are always meshed, and they're always turning when the clutch is engaged. And then if you take a look, these gears here, oh, never mind, hold on a second, that's engaged. So these gears, if you take a look, the main shaft's not spinning, but that gear is. So those gears spin freely on the main shaft, and that one would too, but it's against the bench. But if I lift it up, you can see that it's spinning freely. So this input shaft is always spinning, and this counter shaft is always spinning, and this counter shaft is meshed with these matched gears here. And so the way that it engages is you have these shifting forks. You have this is a shifting fork, and it basically goes into this synchronizer assembly like that. It goes down on there. And so that's always riding in that groove of the synchronizer assembly. And these two here are the synchronizer assemblies, these silver collars here. And so I'm going to take this input shaft out of the way so we don't have to mess with it. I'll probably take the counter shaft out of here too. So the way that this works, with this synchronizer, you've got, this is an outer collar here, and then inside of here is kind of a gear, and this gear, or whatever you call it, hell, I don't know, this is always in contact with the main shaft. It cannot turn in respect to the main shaft, so it's always turning at the same speed as the main shaft, and this collar is too. So the way I understand it is that to engage a gear, when you shift, what happens is that this collar slides and engages. You can see these little teeth, they're called dog teeth, on the inside of this gear here. And then that synchronizer has matching teeth on the inside of that collar there. So get these teeth matched up, and then let's see if I can get a good way to do this. My video stopped there. Back online. So when you kind of difficult. So when you're trying to shift a gear, what happens? Wait for it to focus. Is that this collar should slide. It's not wanting to. There we go. So that collar slides on there, and then it engages these teeth, which are attached to the main shaft, and then those dog teeth on the inside of this gear. And so, as you can see, that gear is spinning freely freely in respect to respect to the main shaft. That gear is spinning freely in respect to the main shaft. But that one right there is attached to the main shaft. Because you got those dog teeth and that teeth engaged. And all the power is transferred through this collar. So you got the... Let me put this all back together real quick. Left the blocker ring. So when this gear is engaged, this is actually third right here. So when this gear is engaged, you've got the power coming in from the main shaft, and then it spins this counter shaft, because that's meshed with the main shaft. This gear is always engaged. It's solid on the main shaft, and then it spins this counter shaft, and then this counter shaft spins this gear, and this is how all the power is transferred from the input shaft to the counter shaft over here, then back to this gear. And once this gear is engaged, it transfers the power through this collar and onto this gear, this part of the synchronizer, and then that synchronizer is attached solidly to the main shaft, and so then it spins the main shaft. So that's how all the power is transferred. And so let me see if I can unshift this. Yeah, there you go. So not one. There we go. So you can kind of see it in action there. The engaging of the teeth, or the engaging of the gear. And then likewise, if you want to shift into fourth, the collar slides this way, that way. Let's see if I can get that for you. Sorry, this isn't working the best. Alright, so well, that works. Here we go. Here's the front of the transmission. There's the back. I'm gonna try and shift into second here. Here's the second gear that's driven, and then here's the synchronizer collar. So we're gonna try and shift that downwards. And my bum wrist here isn't letting me. There we go. So now, second gear is engaged. Third gear is not. First gear is not. You can see those dog teeth there are turning relative to the synchronizer gear, as I call it. And then here you've got the blocker ring, and then the synchronizer gear. And then here's the collar, and then second gear is engaged here. So then to disengage, shift back out, maybe. Kind of hard to do this one-handed. Pull on. Alrighty, I got second gear disengaged. So, as I understand it, I'll kind of explain to you how the synchronizer works. Say you're going along and you're trying to shift back down into first, but the speeds aren't exactly matched correctly. So, this main shaft back here, this is where the drive shaft goes, and so this is being turned. If you have the clutch disengaged, this main shaft is being turned by the wheels of the car and the momentum of the car, And so this main shaft is turning, and what you want to do is get this first gear to be rotating at the same speed as the main shaft. But this main shaft is turning faster than first gear is. So it's gonna be hard to kind of demonstrate here, but what happens is that you're trying to push up on this collar with your lever, and this blocker ring is sandwiched between this the collar and the gear. And so this gear is pushing on this blocker ring, it's sandwiching this blocker ring, and this blocker ring is transferring some of the power via friction to get this gear and then the counter shaft and the input shaft to be turning at the same speed as this main shaft. And so it sandwiches it, and then when it gets to the right speed, it'll allow the gear, or it'll allow the collar to move upwards, and then first gear is locked to the main shaft. But second gear is not. Alright, so here we have the third and fourth gear synchronizer pulled apart. So here's the inside gear, and that's always attached to the shaft with these teeth. So this part that my finger's on right here, that's actually part of the main shaft. And then maybe you can see there's teeth on the inside of this synchronizer that attach onto the main shaft, and then you got teeth on the outside, and then you got the collar here with teeth on the inside. And those teeth right there match up with these teeth, and then the blocker ring, and then the dog teeth on the actual gear. So you can see they're all lined up right there. And so that's what it would look like when this collar is actually engaged, and when the gear is engaged and the collar is slid on there. So all those teeth should line up and match with these teeth on the inside of here. So the collar is sitting here, and then when you shift into gear, it's like shifting to third, this just slides over and engages all those teeth, and the power is transferred through here from this gear, or from these dog teeth to this collar, and then onto here, and then onto the main shaft, and then on out to the drive shaft. So that's how it works.